welcome back. And if you join me late, safety and common sense, that's what we're struggling for in South Carolina with MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Quickly, my guests are Stephen Burritt from Columbia, who is the Program and Fund Development Manager, and then Brittany Johnson. And Brittany is the daughter of people who were hit terribly by a drunken driver, and your mother has had a terrible, terrible time to recover, right?
Yes, ma'am. My parents were hit by an alleged drunk driver in October of 2012. They were on their motorcycle leaving downtown Greenville, and they were hit in a left turning lane. And my dad got up fine, and we just didn't really understand why my mom didn't, because the truck kept driving. When they did the reenactment of the actual crash, the back tire of the truck had gone over my mom's head.
Oh, dear Lord.
So she had sustained diffuse axonal injury, which is a severe brain injury, and there's really nothing you can do about it except wait. Fortunately, my mom came out of a coma about 3 months later, and she's still on the road to recovery. She's, had to learn to walk again. The only thing that she still knew how to do was to speak, which was not a surprise to any of us because she's a chatterbox. But she's still learning how to walk again. She's walking with a walker, sometimes a cane on her good days.
She was in a coma for
about 3 months. Then she was in a semi-coma for a little bit where she would kind of look at you, but we didn't really know who was home. So
now this person who caused this accident is right now free to drive around and do the same thing to somebody else. This is what I don't understand. Once they have been apprehended, they should not be allowed to get behind the wheel of a car. Well, what's wrong with us?
Yeah, that person will have their day in court, and one thing MADD does is go with victims to court. So when Brittany's family goes for that part of that process, obviously as a victim, they'll have a role in that trial, and MADD will be there accompanying folks.
But until the actual conviction, which can take months, they're free to go ahead and drink and drive.
Right. There are a few instances where someone won't get out on bond. Usually if they've killed someone and they had multiple DUI offenses, maybe a judge will see fit not to let them out on bond.
This is what I don't understand. When you read about or you hear about an accident that has done horrible things to people and even caused loss of life, the people who caused that accident, nothing's done to them. And you take somebody's license away, they're going to drive anyway.
Right. Yeah, we definitely have, Emma's Law was a nice first step, but there's still a long way we need to go in terms of having an adequate prosecution system and making sure that we also are having penalties that are adequate. I mean, to some degree, it's hard when we work with victims in terms of what's a penalty that's just, particularly when someone's taken away a loved one in their family. There is no penalty that's appropriate or adequate, but certainly there are times when you can look at things and just say, this is shameful. This is a disgrace for some of the light punishments that happen. So it's always tricky to figure out what the right penalty is, and we leave it to the judiciary to do what they think is best. But certainly when there are examples of just leniency that really makes our laws look like a joke, then we know we have to do something.
And there's great division. I mean, some judges are harsh and others are not.
That's right.
So it's a wide door there.
It is. It is. So we support our victims the best we can, and some of that also, unfortunately, is helping them kind of cope with sometimes the penalties not being what they really thought they should be. And some people really struggle with that almost in the same way as they do with their grief, is to know that this person will be back out after some period of time, or in the cases where their trial has not happened yet, that they're out and about, and that can be very difficult to deal with. And so that's victim services is a big part of what MADD does. We have some of the best written materials in the world in terms of helping folks get through grief and coping, and we walk them through the criminal justice process so that at least they understand what's going on while they're waiting for their offender to go to trial or during the trial. That's a very confusing time. You're suddenly involved in the criminal justice process, and you've never had to understand that before, but our MADD Victim Services folks can say, okay, here's what some of these next steps are going to look like, and here's where you have rights, and here's where you don't, and help walking them through that process.
All right, now, Brittany, you became a volunteer because of what happened to your parents.
Yes, ma'am. I go to University of South Carolina for public relations, and I got an email sent out basically asking if anyone was wanting to be a volunteer from Stephen. And the second I got it, I responded just because I felt called to do that in a way. I felt like it was my duty in a sense. So I got in touch with Stephen and got involved, and it's really helped me just kind of learn about other people and their stories, and it's helped me cope as well. And I know my parents are very proud that I'm a part of it as well. And they came to the walk and they got to see what I've been working on, and that was really exciting for them, and they felt like they're doing their duty as well. So.
And do you need volunteers?
We absolutely do. Again, there's only 2 of us on staff. We really make happen what we do by volunteers.
All right, what would a volunteer have to do?
Well, the great thing is that we have any number of things. So I feel like anyone, depending on what their interest or their level of involvement is, we have an opportunity that will match up. So for example, Brittany got involved in the Midlands area because we were having what we call our Walk Like MADD, that's MADD's signature fundraising event. We've now had 2 in South Carolina. We had one in North Charleston in 2013, and we had one in Columbia in 2014. We had more than 400 folks come, raised over almost $25,000, and an event like that takes massive volunteer support. And hopefully you're going to plan something
for the upstate.
I do. I really have my eye on next fall in 2015 to having a Walk Like MADD Greenville. We definitely need to build up our volunteer support. I'm hoping to have an event this upcoming fall. So you need volunteers
to just help in many, many ways.
Right. So there's so many things we do. We do victim impact panels, which are kind of classes that DUI offenders have to go to, where victims will tell their story. I mean, people like Brittany and other folks maybe who have lost loved ones will tell their story, so we need folks to help set those up. We get all kinds of requests for folks to come, like set up a booth at a community event or a wellness fair, and that's always helpful. Coming up in the fall, from Thanksgiving to New Year's Day is what we call the Tie One On for Safety season, which is people kind of think of that as the MADD red ribbons on the cars. So it's a great way for volunteers to get involved, to go to a local location and give out ribbons to folks and encourage them to put it on their car. So there's lots of ways for folks to get involved, and I really would like to see a lot more activity in the upstate of Greenville. And I should mention, I know your show goes to other states as well, MADD North Carolina and MADD Georgia. I know they'd love to have folks volunteering with them as well.
Every state has a MADD chapter, so wherever they happen to be, you know. But when we are not judging people sitting here today, that's not what we're about. We're trying to give good information. And if you are 21 years old and you want to drink, that's fine. Just don't drink and get behind the wheel of a car. Plan ahead. If you're going to a party and you want to have something to drink and you're over 21, make arrangements for a cab or another friend who isn't going to drink to do the driving. And that's very important as well with teenagers.
That's right. We always say drinking and driving, that one of the most tragic aspects about it is that it's 100% preventable. You can absolutely avoid every situation of needing to drink and drive by just planning ahead, having someone step in and take the keys. You know, it's always difficult every time we hear a story about someone who's greatly hurt or injured and think back to how many people probably could have intervened in that moment. Of course, the ultimate responsibility is always on that person who made the decision to drink and drive.
And it's left to the individual in our law to judge whether they're capable of driving after they've been drinking.
Right.
It's left to the person.
It is. You know,
and then they say, "Oh, I'm fine."
That's right. And unfortunately, as we know, when you drink alcohol, judgment is one of the first things to go. So people really need to be careful saying, "Oh, I can just judge whether I'm good to drive." We find that people generally don't do a very good job of estimating what their BAC is. So sometimes they think they're not drunk, and sure enough, they actually are. So the safest thing is just to find a non-drinking designated driver and take all that risk out of the equation, keeping yourself safe and everyone else on the road.
And of course, we're heading into, you know, times all summer when people are busy on the roads, and so we need to be extra careful.
And enforcement's out there knowing that too, so people also need to keep in mind that more than any other time of year.
And we make it a little tough for our law enforcement people. We need to help them more.
We do, both in terms of the prosecution and also just in terms of having as much, you know, resources for traffic safety. You know, the size of our state trooper force is not what it has been in the past. And just, we can't say, our number one, we call law enforcement our heroes, our law enforcement first responders. We know that when we're in a year where we're having a bad year for DUI or a good year, I would never want to see those numbers if we didn't have the law enforcement folks out there focusing on high visibility traffic safety like they do. Because absolutely, when people see cops out there enforcing the laws, they know this is a place I should not be drinking and driving. I'll get caught.
Slow down.
It changes behavior, right?
Yeah, and we do have the information, and it is an 803 number, 748-7333, and of course it's madd.org/SC, and $20 will get you this. And this is, the more we see these around, the better.
Yeah, we'd love to see those all over. And just a simple step, if people, I'll just encourage everyone to do, is they go to madd.org/SC, just put in your email on the left side there. We don't bombard people with emails from the state office, but we do have a monthly newsletter that goes out by email that really helps folks keep tabs on what we're doing, let them know what the next event is that maybe they could volunteer. It's a good way to just hear a victim story every month.
And are we making progress?
We are.
Okay.
You know, 2012 was a bad year for South Carolina DUI. It was a bad year across the country, interestingly enough. 2013, we'll wait and see what the numbers are, but we think it's going to be better. We're moving in the right direction overall, but we can't afford to have bad years. Too many lives.
And if we need about 2 hours, but if you're a parent, talk to your kids, because it's life-saving information, and we hope that everybody will pay attention. Be safe. Bye-bye.